Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening and a warm welcome to yet another edition of the Red and Blue Review. I'm your host. My name is Nick Philpott, and I'll be joined by a right dodgy-looking crowd, a real international crowd that I've got in here, and I'll explain why in a minute. Before we start the show, I must apologise as it's not the advertised lineup of panellists, and I'll tell you for why. Joe Holyoke, sadly, has got a bit of a sickness bug, and he contacted me this afternoon, and he's poorly in bed, bless his heart. Okay, and Jim Cannon was also supposed to be on the show, and he has an ear infection. And his words were to me in a private text message, I don't want to puke live on screen. I said it would be comedy gold if he did. But replacing them and joining me as always, Ian Noble. Ian, good evening, mate. How are you, buddy?
Good evening, Nick, and good evening, everybody.
You need to be congratulated. You need to be congratulated on the amount of miles you've done in the last few days. Well done. Congratulations to you, buddy.
Four trips to the north of England in as many weeks, almost. So, yeah,
super. Up in the northeast, we have Mr. Croucher. Nige, good evening, mate.
Good evening, Nick. Keeping well?
All good. So what's the situation with the house this year? Have you sorted your gable out up there? Because it got blown down, didn't it? Bless its heart.
Not yet. I'm waiting for the electric company to make it safe for the scaffolding to go up.
Good stuff. I hope the family's safe, mate. And international, I mentioned international at the top of the show. We've got one coming back from the Southern Hemisphere and one staying where he is in the Southern Hemisphere. First of all, Tim Richards, my apologies for the late addition. Thank you for joining us, mate. How are you?
I'm good, mate. No worries at all. Thanks.
When is your flight booked?
At this stage, Tuesday, 21st of December.
So you're going to be back for the Millwall game then?
Well, I haven't heard. When is that? That's the FA Cup, is it?
Don't keep your powder dry. We'll come to that later on.
Right.
And ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure we have a virgin on the show, and his name is Aaron Myers from Melbourne, Australia. Aaron, good morning, mate, and welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I'm well, thank you. And hello to everyone else.
So you and I have been communicating now for a little while, and you said you're a big fan of the show. But tell them about your Palace supporting history and what you're doing down in Australia.
Basically, I lived in Croydon, since I was born. I've been going to Palace games since I can remember. I can remember the first one, but I don't know how old I was. It was actually it was against Wolves, I believe, in the FA Cup. I must have been a toddler at this time. I can't remember his name, but I remember he was an Asian guy, very tall striker for Wolves, and I believe he scored 2 goals against us, and we lost the game 2-0. I don't know if anyone can tap back into that or remember that game, but yeah, I remember that was my first game, and then I was a season ticket holder for the best part of 12 to 13 years until I moved to Australia, and yeah, I've been here ever since, just having to watch on TV. So, but yeah,
as you're there right now on screen, evening Andy Hopper. Andy, meet Aaron. Aaron, meet Andy. Andy is also in Australia. That time you two, I know it's an enormous country, and I think you're on his Andy's Facebook page, Australian Facebook group anyway. So good to have you on board, mate. Now, listen. So, what is it you actually do down in Australia?
So in Australia, I am a farmer. So yeah, that is my job.
Now? Yeah. Oh yeah. So what is it? What farm is it, mate?
It's an apple orchard.
Oh, is it? How funny. What am I drinking right here? Apple juice. So how big is it? Is it the size of the UK or?
Oh no, not the size of the UK, but it's relatively big. I don't know the exact size of it, but yeah, I mean, everywhere we have to go, we have to drive on it. We got our trucks that drive around it. But yeah, it's only the 3 of us that work on there. So yeah, quite enjoyable. Change from England, that's for sure.
Well, listen, mate, you are more than welcome to the team. Welcome aboard. It's great to have you here. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget to ask your smart speaker to play the latest Red and Blue review podcast. The pod from tonight's show will be up immediately after we finish, because Lady Lucy is producing tonight, and she is a whiz with those buttons, apart from on her own laptop, of course. You can also find us on Twitter. Make sure you get onto the Twitter page. Ian Noble looks after our Twitter page now, and he is on it, all over it. He's tweeting literally seconds before we came live. And lastly, you can watch us as live if you pop over to our YouTube channel, where if you click the bell and subscribe, you will never miss another show. Or go to our website, redandbluereview.co.uk. I believe that's right. Yeah, redandbluereview.co.uk. And you can go back and watch our entire catalogue, including interviews with Jim Cannon, John Solarco. Are we going to do this, Ian? Are we going to do the big one?
Yeah, we are. Let's tell everybody, shall we?
Right, ladies and gentlemen.
Nick, over to you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been teasing the bugger out of you for the last few weeks, okay? And you'll know that Ian's running some monthly competitions with some signed, very special signed programs from very important games in our history. I am delighted to announce, live on the Red and Blue Review, okay, delighted to announce that the interview that we carried out here in my dining room at this table about 3 weeks ago, and it is currently being edited by the talented Greg Ellis and ready for you over the Christmas period. We have the first time he's ever done one of these. The first time he's ever done one of these. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to announce to you, for those of you watching this evening, and there's only a few of you out there at the moment, that Sir Steve Coppell, that's Steve Coppell, has granted us his very first ever Crystal Palace podcast. He hasn't done one ever before, okay? And he sat here and he gave the guys, most of the guys that are sitting there now, okay, he gave us 3 hours of his time before he flew out to Singapore, where his son and daughter-in-law are about to give birth to his first grandchild. And he granted us 3 hours of his time. And the guy was magnificent. But you don't need to take our word for that, okay? You watch this show that we've got coming out for you. It's going to be divided up into, I don't know if it's 3 or 4 half-an-hour shows, but as I say, it's been edited down now. And once we're ready to go for the launch, but the people watching the show tonight have found out before anybody else, all the other podcasts, Crystal Palace podcast providers, okay, will be gutted, okay, because Little Red and Blue Review have the biggest coup in our history. We have Steve Coppell. He was live and exclusive here in my dining room. And
Nick,
on top of that,
that'll do. Don't lay it on too thick, mate. You've done a great job.
There you go. We got Steve Coppell. If I didn't tell you, we managed to get Steve Coppell, and I'm chuffed to pieces. So look out for that. It'll be on all over our socials. Lead up and over Christmas. Please don't miss it. You won't want to miss a single second of it. So I suppose we need to chew the cud, and we've got to get into this. We'll go into the lineups in a second, but the reality is, boys, you can't get away from the fact we've now lost 3 on the trot. Nigel, coming to you first. 3 on the bounce. Okay, if we were to lose against Everton and Southampton, going to Christmas, 5 on the bounce. It's not too early. It's not too early to start getting worried, is it? We are supposed to be looking over our shoulders, I suppose, wouldn't we?
Well, I think if we're looking over our shoulders at the moment, we've got a 6-point buffer. But if we lose 5 on the spin, that 6 points can very quickly close up. There is some dross behind us, but we've got to be careful what we're doing. And it is some of the dross we're playing in the next couple of weeks. So,
yeah, but Tim, Nigel mentioned the word dross, but I mean, you would argue that we go and beat Man City, okay, but you'd be expecting us to go and beat Villa, beat Leeds. It just didn't happen. The league is so competitive that anybody can beat anybody else. Would you not agree?
Oh yeah, when you just look at Watford 4, Man U 1. I mean, who would have said that as well a couple of weeks ago? I'm not too worried at the moment. They're still bedding in. I think what it shows is our squad isn't quite as deep as we all would like to think it is, because time and time again, I think he's playing players like Ayew, who did a good job, but he's not a striker. You need someone that can put the ball away. And my point of view is, at what point are players like Eze and Elise fit to start? I mean, if they're good enough to be on the bench, Wilf isn't doing it at the moment, and Ayew, bless his heart, he's putting the effort in, but he's not a striker. We've got options. Is it time that we just put them in from the start?
Okay, Ian, being our Twitter king, I don't know if you saw it this morning, but I did see there was one clown in particular use the expression hashtag Vieira out. Your thoughts, mate, please.
They clearly haven't been watching Palace this season. If someone says that, that's crazy. Anyone that says Vieira out just hasn't got it. They don't understand football. Full stop. There's no point debating it because Patrick Vieira's done a great job since he's arrived. He's changed the philosophy of the football club. We play a different brand of football than we did last season. It's more exciting to watch. I know it's been a bit tricky the last 3 games, and it was, not what we expected against Villa. We said, we marked that as a game we should probably win. And don't forget, I think we've been a bit unlucky with the timing of the way we played these teams. Aston Villa, their second game, the new manager bounced for Gerrard. And, they've got some decent players. They're a big club. And they didn't secure the game until about 5 minutes from the end. And then again yesterday, the new manager bounced. It was a different Man United that turned up against us than the team that played Watford away. It was totally different. We talk about it more when we talk about the game, but we've caught teams also almost at the wrong kind of time. But that's the season. That's football. that happens, and over the course of a season, it will even itself out. But yeah, Vieira out. You're joking, aren't you?
Yeah, and I didn't even answer it, and I think the way you just summed that up is right. Aaron, your thoughts? It's too early to be looking over our shoulders, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with Ian. I was about to say the same thing. We've played Aston Villa and Man United. They both got new manager bounces. And yeah, obviously when we get into the Man United game, as Ian said, I think that, we wasn't expecting them to play the way that they was, which caught us out maybe a bit. But yeah, I think we have actually got to go into the Everton game and hold our heads higher and take the game to them, because I think they're absolutely shot to pieces at the moment. So it would be nice to go and win against them. But then again, I'm surprised that, Rafa might be sacked by the time that they play Arsenal. So we'll have to find out.
Who's the Everton manager? Remind me again. What's his name?
Benitez.
Benitez. There was even talk about him getting sacked as well. And I thought, Christ, we couldn't be that unlucky to have another new manager bounce. Surely. Were you going to say something?
Well, Nick, Paul Bristow's just put it in the chat. Will Benitez still be at Everton on Sunday?
There you go.
Or will it be another new manager bounce? Yeah. Well, he won't be a permanent manager. He'll be drunken Duncan in charge if he does get the sack, won't it? But it'll depend on how well they play tonight. Because if Arsenal beat them easily, then he could get the sack. But it's unlikely, I would suggest.
The director of football was the sacrificial lamb yesterday, so he was.
Yeah, but wasn't there a different reason for that, though, Nigel? You're right. I did see that he'd gone.
It's because I think it's because of all the big signings he's made over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
I just think they've sacked him just to take a bit of the pressure off Rafa myself.
Right, okay, so I suppose we better get into yesterday. Lucy, is there any chance we could have the lineup on the screen? Because there is a couple of things I wanted to talk about on the lineup, and I'll read it out while Lucy's finding it for us. Guaita, Nathaniel Klein in for Joel Ward, Tompkins, obviously instead in for Anderson, Guehi, Mitchell, Kouate, Schlupp, Gallagher, Ayew, Benteke, and Zaha. And the one that we're going to be talking about on that lot very much tonight is Mr. Zaha. On the bench, and I think we need to touch on the bench as well, Butland, Kelly, Riedewald, Milivojevic, Hughes, Eze, Elise, Edward, and the lesser spotted Matata was on the bench. For God, things have got to get pretty crap for Matata to actually show his face. I didn't even realise I'll be honest with you, I didn't even realise he was still at the club. I thought he'd gone back. Did you know Matata was still there?
Yeah, I knew he was still there, yeah.
Very, very unusual. Right, okay. So, the lineup. So, was there anything special in the lineup that surprised you? We knew that the Klein would be coming in for Joel, obviously, because Joel was suspended. Anything unusual? Anything you were a bit shocked about?
No, not really. I was expecting to see Hughes start. I think after his little cameo at Leeds in the last 12 minutes or whatever it was, I was wanting him probably more than expecting Hughes to start in the middle of the park instead of Schlupp, really, because when we get into the game, Schluppy for me did very little in that first half, especially. And he just seems to be alternating Benteke and Edouard, doesn't he? You know, one starts one game, one starts the next game. It's a bit like that at the moment. So yeah, and again, selection wise, I expected Ayew to start. We'll talk about Ayew more again later, maybe, but you know, away at Old Trafford, I don't think it's the game for Elise. I still think it's too early for Eze to start games. I think we've we're not exactly rushed him back, but he's come back earlier than expected, and he needs more minutes before he starts.
Ian is a bit remiss of me. I do apologise, but can you see your screen and say some hellos to some people out there?
Yeah, I can do. Yeah, sure. Paul Holden, a regular. Hello, Paul. All right. Paul Grant. Chloe, Francesca Johnson. That's a rather grand name you got there, Chloe, on Facebook. Don't mind me saying. Stephen Isles, George Awaga, Stephen Isles. I've said him already. Sorry, I'm just looking at my page. It's not refreshing. What's going on?
Yeah, Chloe's there. So James Conway's there.
Oh, the real panel's there. Real panel. Matty Cannon, Joanne Phillips, Paul Bristow, Mike Howell. Hello, Mike. How you doing, mate?
Big fella.
Yeah, good crowd tonight.
Mr. Howell, beautiful family photo you posted the other day, buddy. It was superb. Jason Green's there. Hi, Jason. I hope you're well, mate. Yeah, so we were talking about the lineup. Ladies and gentlemen, before Ian does his first half summary, I would like you to do a little bit of work in the chat, please, if you'd be so kind. Would you tell me, and there is a reason for this, because we were talking pre-show about this one person, I would like to know your thoughts on Jordan Ayew's performance in particular yesterday. And once you've actually put it in the chat and given us what your honest views are on Jordan and how he played yesterday, I'm going to tell you why. Ian, first half, mate.
What, yesterday, yeah? Not Leeds, yeah? Talk about yesterday.
Do we need to cover? Do you think we should cover Leeds, boys? I'll leave it up to you.
Well, let me just mention Leeds because we'll talk about it quickly. So I actually thought we were the better team at Leeds over 90 minutes. Patrick Vieira said as much in his post-match presser. I thought we were really unlucky to come away with nothing at all. The two games had similarities in as much as we had chances to win it with about 15 minutes left. So the big talking point for me was the Benteke missing the second half at Leeds. But, you know, the other thing we've got to talk about, that look at that. It's actually harder to miss than score that chance. It was a great little move, lovely little dink in from Wilf. And Benteke has got to hit the target there. He really must hit the target. Whether this defender puts him off slightly, but, he's holding his head in shame having missed that. But in the first half as well, match of the day, I mean, they hate us, don't they? They're always biased towards the other team. I watched back the highlights of the Leeds and Man United games or match of the day earlier this evening. And they said for them, the Jordan Ayew, the penalty appeal in the first half would have been soft. I think it was one of those decisions that if the ref doesn't give it, VAR don't overturn it. It's not clear and obvious. If the ref gives it, then again, VAR doesn't overturn it because it's not clear and obvious. I thought it was a foul. I thought he pushed him. Yeah, he might have gone down a bit easily, but what else could he do? I think that's a foul. And in the second half, we had something very similar on the edge of the box, on the far side of where we were in the ground. Very similar challenge, hands on the player, outside the box. The referee gives it. Free kick to Palace. Yeah, so there are double standards there. And frankly, Kevin Friend was not our friend at that game at all. He really wasn't. The goal came in stoppage time, the penalty. No arguments about the penalty. It was a penalty. What my friend Mark's doing with his arm up like that, I don't know. But yeah, he'll learn. He's young. He's going to make mistakes. And it was a hard way to lose a game. Bitter pill to swallow up there. And it was particularly hard for us in the ground. You know, we were in the front row of the Palace section. And the Leeds fans in front of us, they celebrated twice. Once when they got the penalty and once when they scored the goal. Well, three times, and then again at full time, which was hard to take. It really was. Coming out of there, it was raining. It was late. It was horrible midweek. It was really horrible.
It was.
But
It
yeah,
was.
we deserved something from that, but it wasn't to be, was it? So
Indeed. I'm just keeping my eye on all their comments about Ayu's performance yesterday in the chat. I've got lots I want to talk to you about on individual players, okay? And the Ayew one I'm going to come back to, okay? Let's go, Aaron. Do you think Mitchell is missing Anderson? And the reason I'm saying that is because James, bless his heart, JT has come back in for the last 3 games and we've lost all 3 of them. Is there any correlation to the fact that Tompkins has come back in and we've lost all 3, or is it just the fact that we're missing Anderson?
I mean, for me, I think we are missing Anderson. For me, in terms of the Leeds and especially yesterday's performance, I think Anderson gives us an outlet, especially when Man United and other teams, they're going to press us high. Anderson is the outlet with them crossfield balls and his passing. I mean, I think James Tompkins has been absolutely solid defensively, absolutely solid since he's come in. I mean, our set piece defending has been much better. But in terms of maybe getting out, especially at Old Trafford, we definitely miss Anderson because Tompkins hasn't got that range of passing. And for me, I was looking at the game and I thought Kouyaté was trying to take over that role. And there was a couple of crossfield balls that would go into Zaha, but they were nowhere near him. So, yeah, I mean, as an outlet, I think we're definitely missing it.
Indeed. Tim, same sort of question to you. Obviously, we had a double change with Wardy not being there as well. Our back 4 that looked really solid in the opening segment of the season, not so much now.
I don't know. I thought that the last 2 games defensively we were a lot better. I mean, against Man United, how many other teams have you seen play United and kept Ronaldo so quiet? I mean, how many chances did Ronaldo have? I mean, I thought defensively we were last 2 games especially, we've been a lot stronger themselves.
Do you know what, Ian? You wanted to add something there?
yeah, I'm just saying, I just agree with Tim, really. The way we leaked goals at Burnley, I know we scored up the other end as well, but at Burnley, we were leaking goals. We were all over the place at the back, really. And Patrick Vieira said it's something we need to work on. And I think we've done that. Maybe not so much after the Villa game, but certainly in the last 2 away games, we've been much more solid at the back. And as my friend, the Real Panels, just said, Tompkins has been good. And he has. I thought Kleiny yesterday started off a bit dodgy. He took time for him to grow into the game. He hasn't played any football at all, has he? But we're talking about a player who's played 14 times for England, so you don't lose it overnight. He came in and did a reasonable job in the end.
I don't think he did anything. Yeah, you're right. I don't think he did anything wrong. I'm coming on to a couple of the other players because, before I do that, I just want to go through back to some of the quotes, and we're going to be talking about Schlupp and Ayew, and I shall tell you why shortly. Tom Samuel, thank you for all your work, Tom. Talking about Jordan Ayew, tried and no end product. Paul Glance, evening Sir Glance. Ayew graphs, but hardly can't score. That is a horrific stat, by the way. Is it something like 40 games he's played for us since he last scored a goal?
More, I think.
Awful. Chloe, good evening, Chloe. On Ayew, I think he works hard in each game. He plays, but misses crucial chances, and I'm sure we're going to come on to when Ian talks about today's game. Although you could say the same about Benteke missing chances, and you could. And there lies another talking point, the Benteke thing. And you're quite right, Chloe. Paul Bristow says, Jordan Ayew in the last 2 games, lots of good stuff, but every final touch was poor. Okay, so the reason I wanted to talk about those 2 in particular, and Schlupp being one of them, because obviously Schlupp is starting at the moment. The reason I wanted to talk about him in particular is because our fellow co-host, Mr. Holyoke, Jill, in our private chat, was yesterday berating both of those, using the expressions, things like what was he said, Ian? Championship players at best. Absolutely crap performances, left, right, and centre by both of them. Ayew shouldn't be gracing the Palace shirt. I even spoke to him very briefly this morning, and he was still going on about it. And I was going to set Ian and Gel up against each other because personally, I think he's wrong. You know, whilst I care very deeply about Mr. Ayew, he's a good friend of mine. I think he's got this absolutely wrong. Anybody want to pick up? Nige, pick up and tell me about Jordan Ayew.
Jordan Ayew is put on there to do a job, and he's more down there, I think, now to play down the right wing. I went to the Burnley match, and sort of where we were sitting, we were looking straight down the right wing in the second half, and you could just see it was graft for the whole 45 minutes. We had a decent view of him, and he puts a hard and honest shift in. He's lost the ability to score goals, but hopefully it'll come back sooner rather than later.
Well, boy, I don't mind who takes this, but yeah, I'll tell you what I was actually thinking about is they dropped him for, I think it was the Villa game, and brought Elise in. Am I right? They put Elise out on that side, and quite frankly, Elise disappointed. He really, really disappointed me. Ayew, what he brings to the table is industrious. He's in for the challenge. He works hard. On the Schlupp subject, now, what I've noticed with Jeff Schlupp over the last, 6 months or more is when he comes on as a sub, he normally has some sort of impact. Okay, he's really busy. He works hard. He seems to be less effective when he starts and plays 90 minutes. Anybody?
Yeah, I agree, and I think the same for Elise. Really, I think some players are better suited to having an impact rather than starting games. Schluppy just not good enough yesterday. He was the weakest link for me. I'm not sure what he brought to the whole of the first half. Just didn't do enough.
Yeah, I think for me, what the United game showed is that Ayew is not the player for that formation. He's not one of the front three. If you're going to play Ayew, you do 4-4-2. You have him on the wing and you have two up front because Ayew's not a striker. I forget who it was, but someone made a comment. What do you expect for £1.5 million? That says it all. He's not a striker.
But Tim, whether you position the starting lineup as 4-3-3 or 4-4-2, he was playing quite deep anyway. To be fair, we were playing deep as a side. Especially in that first half. United were bringing the game to us. We couldn't get near them in the first 25 minutes.
I mean, to be fair, like you all know, I'm not his biggest fan, but I agree with Nick, and that really pains me to say it. But I agree with Nick. I thought the last two games, Ayew's probably had his best games for us that I can remember. He did brilliant, especially against United. He took the ball out, he got fouls, But like I said in the comment in the questions group, we saw the best and worst of it. As a strike, that chance he had, not even to get it on target, sums up exactly the problem with Jordan Ayew. But the last two games, he's done a great job for us.
Nick, we put it on Twitter earlier, right? So I tweeted this morning. Jordan Ayew seems to be splitting the fan base right now following his selection of both Leeds and Man United. So what do we think, Twitter? We had 71 votes. I know it's not loads, but it's 71 nevertheless. 41% said he adds more than most. 28% said he was average at best. And 31% said he's not good enough. So the majority or the highest vote was he was one of our best players. It still wasn't as high as I thought it was going to be. But, for me, especially away from home, a tough place to go, I think he's the right selection. The way he holds the ball up, the way he wins. I mean, a couple of times yesterday, he had 2 or 3 United players around him and he still came away with the ball. And the thing is, he does the hard bit by doing that. And then it's the next pass that often lets him down. So he does the hard bit. He wins the ball. He carries the ball up the pitch and he does what he's asked to do. And if you watch the post-match presser, Patrick Vieira said as much. Because it was the talking point because he missed a big chance. And if you put that big chance alongside the big chance he missed against Brighton, he's missed 2 big chances that he should have buried, both of them.
Yeah.
Leeds, he was our man of the match, I thought.
Yeah, you're probably right, Nudge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen in Facebook land, I'm about to come on to me, I'm about to be really controversial. Okay. Gallagher didn't have a great game yesterday. He seems to, like the whole team, when Gallagher's not on it, okay, the whole team doesn't seem to be on it. And I know he wasn't as effective as he's been, certainly in his early part of his Palace loan spell. But the one I want to talk about, and I want you to talk about it in the chat, and it's the elephant in the room. What do we do about the enigma that's called Wilfried Zaha? I'm going to chuck it out there, okay, that he is having his poorest spell in a Palace shirt, his poorest spell, to the point where we have somebody on the bench in Edouard that could come in and do a job, okay? They're playing him on the wing, one of the wings, for God's sake, so you may as well. Do we, here we go, ready, controversy, do we potentially drop Wilfried Zaha? Has it got to the stage where his performances have been, he spent most of yesterday on his arse complaining at the referee. Ian's about to crucify me, and it's a talking point. It's not a, yet shall we? Do we run the risk of dropping? In fact, Ian, before I go to you, let's go to Aaron. Aaron, am I barking mad?
Personally, I think you are barking mad. I wouldn't drop him. I think he's been. I have to agree with you. I think his performances the last couple of games, maybe even stretching back further, have been absolutely terrible. I know that might be controversial, the word terrible, but yeah, I don't think he's been good enough. I don't think he's been. He doesn't look like he's interested. I remember Ian saying a few weeks ago, sometimes, it's just like he just wants to fight players instead of actually getting on with the game. And yeah, he just doesn't look interested at the moment. But at the same time, he is our talisman. I think he is our best player. I know we've added quality to the squad, but I still think he's our best player. So for me, I wouldn't drop him, no.
Ian, I'm coming to you now, okay? But I want to go just read out a couple of the comments. Somebody, Andrew Adams is saying, play Zaha on the right wing as he's a right footer. Fair. Jason Green saying Wilf again. Play him on a free roll so he's not marked out of the game. Chloe saying Zaha can be dropped and Vieira isn't scared to do so. So maybe other people are listening to what Chloe just said. Maybe it is that time that we started considering, do you know what? Perhaps he needs a break. Ian Noble, over to you.
Yeah, you can't drop him because he will always have that potential to have that moment of magic that can turn a game. Up at Leeds, the ball that went in from Benteke, that was an assist for Wilf. Should have been an assist. That's what the stat should be revealing. It wasn't. No to dropping Wilf, says the real panel, my friend. He's the one player we have that can still produce something, even if he's not playing well. And he hasn't been playing well at times, but every time he gets the ball, there's still that expectation, and other teams double up on him. I think it's a reasonable shout to put him on the right, and for him to switch over with whoever's playing on the other flank, to have the flexibility to do that. But you can't drop a player of his ability. Now, that said, of course, when he wasn't available at Arsenal, we did play Edouard and Benteke and Ayew as a front three, and we did pretty well in the second half there. So, we've got options, but I still wouldn't drop him. Not for me.
And we're talking about play Zaha on the right because if he's right-footed and Alisi on the left because he's left-footed. Go on, Tim.
I'm going to be Mr. Controversial here, but I think it definitely is time to drop him. Yeah, I keep hearing he's one of our best players, but when was the last time he actually put a performance in that you could say, wow? I can't remember one. And to be fair, as he's back training, he's been on the subs bench. I don't see anything wrong with putting Wilf on the bench and starting Eze for a chance. Give him half a game, see what happens, and then bring Wilf on if you need be. But we've been trying to get away from being a one-player club for years. And we finally got a squad where, to a certain extent, we're no longer a one-player club. So, yeah, you've got to drop players who aren't performing, and he's not performing. to the level that he needs to be. So I say put him on the bench for a bit. Give Eze a start, see how it goes.
I was just thinking about the fact that yesterday he was captain at Manchester United of all clubs, and he couldn't raise his game for that. And as I was thinking about it, Matty Cannon wrote, "If Will can't raise his game, and with the captain's armband too, so surprised he was not up for it, especially with the captain's armband." And he's right. Okay, Ian, first half summary, please, if you'd be so kind.
Yeah, I sort of touched on it earlier, really. I thought Man United were much better than us in the first half. They took the game to us. They were playing a high press. We had no time on the ball whatsoever. And I think we were lucky to go in level. They had chances. All right, so a lot of the chances were from distance. But, virtually everyone was having a crack at goal. Guita made a couple of good saves and a couple were just around the post. I thought both fullbacks played well, Tellez and Dallo, whatever his name is. But they pressed high up the pitch and, we were on the back foot for a lot of the time. We were times when we couldn't even goal the ball. We couldn't get near it. We were chasing shadows. So first half for me, 0-0, I'm going, phew, that's a relief going in half-time, still level.
Got away with that one, Aaron?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm not sure if you'd agree with this, but I mean, I'm not sure that we expected them to press as much as they did. I think we got caught out for the first half. I mean, they haven't pressed all season. I think they got the worst pressing stats in the league by a country mile. And I think, we got completely caught out for that first half, Ian. I agree with you. It was sort of backs to the wall stuff. And, I think Patrick Vieira might have been a bit naive to that, but it is what it is, really.
It's clearly something that Ranić has introduced is the high press, because in actual fact, it's interesting you raise that point, Aaron, because Palace themselves tweeted at half-time yesterday, both teams playing a high press may give us an opportunity in the second half.
Except they executed it much better than we did.
Correct.
I was actually screaming for us to press more. Maybe more in the second half. We just weren't doing it. We weren't getting there quick enough. Unlike Man United, who were doing a really good job on us. And
Ian,
as I said earlier,
in a nutshell, that's what you've just created there. In a nutshell, is our last three performances. Against Leeds, we didn't press so high. Against Villa, we didn't press so high, and we didn't press so high against Man United. In my opinion, I don't know if anybody out in Facebook land agrees with me, but in a nutshell, you've just hit it, the nail right on the head. That's what's different. That's what's been different of these three performances to the ones previously.
And you know why, don't you? You know why? The one player missing that has caused this is James McArthur. Because James McArthur has meant that Gallagher hasn't had the freedom to do the pressing. If you look at all the pressing prior to that, the real high pressing, it's Gallagher that's done that. And he hasn't had the opportunity because he's had to do other work that Jimmy Mack would have picked up in a more defensive midfield role. So I think McArthur's absence has meant Gallagher's game has changed, albeit subtly, but it has. And he hasn't been as effective in the last three games as he has prior to that. If you look at him in games like West Ham, we scored that brace, and other games where he's really got assists and things. He's just not been on it as much as he could and should have been.
Do you know what? I reckon Paul's in the real panel's in the same room as you right now, Ian, because he's just messaged us saying less press because Gallagher has been playing a deeper role with McArthur out. Nigel, anything you want to add on the Gallagher performances of late?
It's as you've already said, he's dropping back deeper to cover for the missing Jimmy Mack, and it's just not his natural game.
Okay, and I just also want to finish off on the reason I was mentioning Zaha, by the way, and I didn't actually get to it in the end because we moved on to something else, but I just want to go back to the Zaha situation. The thing that's frustrating me about Zaha is the amount of times, and I actually put it in our chat yesterday, and Nigel, you'd have seen that, is how many times he's lost possession yesterday. Whether it be he's fouled or whether he's lost it in a tackle or whatever the reason is, he got dispossessed on many occasions to the point, and I'm going to back it up by current stats this season, and I haven't. Oh, look, my production team are on fire tonight, and there they are. And I think that, ladies and gentlemen, shows my frustration with our great talisman. Antonio Zars, Salah, Jimenez, Jordan Ayew, Trossard, Sam Maximan, and Wilfried Zaha sitting at the top of the list of dispossessed players. Now, I think it's quite interesting in there, our current recent performances, that 2 out of those top 4 are Palace players.
And this is why I say about Wilf being dropped. I mean, yes, he's no doubt one of our best players, but his performances just haven't produced, and we're not deep enough squad to be able to keep saying, "Oh, we'll keep playing because he might in one game do something really good." We can't afford that.
Okay, right, Ian, cover off the second half if you'd be so kind.
Yeah, just before I do that, I think we just need to make the point that we didn't quite know what to expect at Old Trafford yesterday because of the new manager, and he wasn't with them long, but he definitely changed their ethos and their outlook. And the team we played were different to the team we would have played had Michael Carrick still been in charge. So let's make this, and the team that played Arsenal in the week. So let's be clear about that. Man United, they were out to impress him. They played very, very well in the first half, as we've said. Second half, we did come back into it a little bit more. It was a little bit more even than the first half, and we had that big chance that we've already talked about. And there were times when I thought, yeah, we're looking good, and we got corner after corner, and we still weren't making the most of it. And yet their goal was and the guy had a little bit of room, but he still had an awful lot to do, and you can't take it away from him. It was an absolutely fantastic strike that was unsavable. So, having missed at one end, up the other end moments later, they're 1-0 up. We're then chasing the game. Disappointed, really. Well, not surprised, though. The match of the day didn't even show any of that. Once they scored, yay, United have won. Fantastic. But we did press a bit towards the end, caused them a few problems, a few scary moments for them. But it was sort of more hopeful than expectant. It just felt like we were going to lose 1-0, having gone behind so late in that second half.
Speaking after the game, Patrick Vieira told Match of the Day, "I'm disappointed. We gave them a tough game. We made it really difficult for them. But at the end of the day, conceding a goal, we are so disappointed. We had the chance before. It's so frustrating. Coming to a place like this, we knew it'd be difficult, and we'd have to work hard together. And when you get the opportunities, you have to take them. When you don't take them, you're left vulnerable." On Jordan Ayew's miss, he said, "I'm disappointed for Jordan. He had a fantastic game," said the manager. "This is football. We need to change our mindset. How can we be more ruthless when we're in the opposition's box? That's something we have to work on." We didn't know what to expect. I mean, funny, you just said the same thing, Ian. We didn't know what to expect from United. We were only concerned with ourselves. As a team, we defended quite well. But again, I'm really disappointed with that goal. So that's the first time I've heard him talking negatives actually in a post-match interview. It's quite interesting. So, yeah, another defeat for Palace, another 1-0 defeat coming up. We've got 3 more winnable games: Everton, Southampton, and Watford. Ladies and gentlemen out in Facebook land, your thoughts, please, on those 3 fixtures. What do you reckon we're going to get? Chloe, I'll be looking forward to your predictions so I can nick them and put them in the predictions league as well. I think you had a pretty good week last week, so I am going to nick yours because mine have been absolutely crap, as you've all laughed. I mean, for weeks and weeks and weeks. And the big news this evening at 7 o'clock on, what was it on? ITV4, the FA Cup draw. I remember the day that used to be on Saturday afternoon on, what was the old grandstand? They used to put the 3rd round draw on that, and it used to be on prime time TV. You had to go and find it tonight, and then people were still tweeting. Can you tell us what it was on? It was buried in the back of nowhere, a bit like Aaron's farm down in Australia. So the big news is we have a South London derby. Now, there it is. My production team. What are you doing? You are excelling yourself.
They're on fire.
They are. FA Cup's 3rd round draw. Palace have been drawn against Millwall. Okay, now we haven't played Millwall for a long time. To be played somewhere between the 7th and 10th of January. Ladies and gentlemen out in Facebook land, if you haven't realised, that means we are away to Brighton and away to Millwall in the same week, within 7 days. I believe it's the FA Cup is likely to be on Friday the 7th, okay, if that's even a date. No, and it's Brighton is the 14th. So we've got two very, very big games, okay, and normally quite interesting games when it comes to the fans. In fact, the best tweet of the day came from Carl Davis, who tweeted about half an hour ago. He said, Palace fans, can you still now stop bashing each other? You've got plenty of opportunities to take care of that sort of thing in those two games. And I think he's absolutely right. Very interesting. Any thoughts on that draw of the FA Cup, boys?
Get Nathaniel Klein on. Remember that classic quote he had a couple of years ago?
It was 10 years ago.
Was it 10? Yeah, Wolf.
Someone put the tweet on earlier. I had to look. I had to check it out. It was 2011.
Right.
Was it? And go on in. I know what it was because I saw the same tweet. For the benefit of our two Southern Hemisphere boys, what did it say, Ian?
It said, South London is ours. F off Millwall, South London is ours. Something like that, yeah.
Now, I'm going to come up with something completely left field. And none of you, we didn't talk about this pre-show. Okay, it's something, because I drive a bus in one of the higher parts of London, in New Addington. New Addington looks right the way across South London, as you know. What is the two biggest, tallest features, gentlemen, in South London that can be seen anywhere south of the river? Can you tell me?
Two TV transmitters.
TV transmitters is the right answer. Now, in my sad, lonely little head, okay, when I'm driving that bus and I've got a bus full of the great unwashed of Croydon on board the bus, I've actually sat on top of that hill in New Addington, and you can see both the masks. First of all, at night, of course, they've got red warning lights on them all the way down. Personally, I'd like one of you to volunteer to climb that mast and change every other one to a blue one. Okay, because you can see it anywhere in South London and turn it red and blue, please. Now, am I absolutely mad? The other thing I thought of, and I've done this for weeks now, if you go up onto the top of that hill and anywhere in Crystal Palace area, Croydon area, you can see these masts wherever you are. How do we get a big flag up there? A giant, great big red and blue flag off the Crystal Palace mast. Okay. Sadly, I think one of them is still live, and is the BBC one is still live. The radio one, I believe, has been deactivated. So just sitting there redundant, just with some red lights on it. Would that not be a great way to show Millwall that South London really is ours, boys? Or am I just stupid?
I think you're a bit stupid, really, but no. I think the way to show South London is ours is to take the biggest turnout we can possibly get at the New Den. You know, let's sell our allocation. I can't remember if I've ever been in the New Den where both tiers have been full. We normally just get the upper. So let's get both tiers in that stand full of Palace and just make so much noise, and that they won't like that, you know. And that, will they sell their ends out? They probably will, because it's such a big game for them. But when you think about this is probably a dream FA Cup tie. I mean, I've got no happy memories of going there in the Championship at all. It was the only ground I always said I'd never wear colours to, because you just didn't like walking around afterwards. It always kicked off, and, you know, they're a horrible bunch. They really are. But, you know, if we can really take as many as we can there and make loads of noise, and, you know, that will make South London ours, because we can beat them. Of course we can, you know. So, yeah, but, yeah, good shout, Nick. Let's put a big flag up on the masts.
So I want to talk about that. Apparently, according to Teresa Baker, I'm not as mad as you make out that I'm mad, you lot, okay? She's just said in the chat, awesome idea. So you can wear a pair of those, you lot, okay? And somebody else, and I think it was Trishan, just said in there that, yeah, it was. He said, I'm so excited. I was hoping for this draw. I've never been there. I'm only been going to away games since 2013. Tris, it's funny you should say that, because, again, pre-show, we were talking about the FA Cup draw, and I mentioned to the guys that I've never been to the New Den. However, after sitting there thinking about it, I have been to the New Den, but not inside. Now, I don't know if you remember when they first built the New Den, there was still some development work going on the back of the stands, and there's a big muddy mound. And we went there because we couldn't get tickets for the game. We went there and we stood on this muddy ground, on this muddy pile at the back of the stand, and we could actually see in one corner of the ground. And all of a sudden, they sung that bleeding song. Oh, okay. And from the stand, I pooped myself. From the back of the stand, I thought, that's scary. The volume that they create in that little stadium of theirs, okay, was scary. So that is the only time I've ever been to the new den. I went to the old den on a few occasions, and as Ian quite rightly says, you don't wear colours, but Palace fans, get behind this, okay? Don't think just because it's the early stages of the FA Cup, it's not interesting, because this is massive. Ian, from your memory, can you remember the last time we played them?
Well, it was the last season in the Championship.
So what are we talking about? 8 years ago?
Yeah, it's 2012-13 season.
13, wasn't it?
Real panel, over to you, mate, in the chat. I'd like to know what the result was the last time we played Millwall at the Den, please. Off to you. And he's also just said on there, talking about the real panel, he's just said, Nick, do you paint the blue stripes on your bus to go with the red and blue thing? Now, is it such a stupid idea? A 40-foot flag off the top of that mole? I don't think it is that bad. You know, let's get behind the club. Come on, HF. Do something constructive. I know you're planning a display for the next home game. Let's do something for the Palace Millwall FA Cup's third round draw. Boys, thoughts on the next 3 games, please. Any of you? Aaron, you go first.
Well, I'd like to see us get a win against Everton, which I said before. I think they're absolutely shot to pieces at the moment. Their confidence is low. I know we've lost the last 3, but I mean, I've watched Everton in the last couple of their games, and they've been very, very poor, very poor. And I think that the way that they're playing at the moment will fall into our hands a little bit if it works out that way. So yeah, I'd like to see us get a win against Everton. And then have we got Southampton after that?
It's Everton, Southampton, and Watford. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're all winnable games. So, I mean, I'd be dreaming if I said not 9 points, because I think I said that over the last 3 games, and look what happened there. So, yeah, I mean, I'd like to see us win at least 2 of those games.
Nige, your thoughts on that?
I'd like to say 9, but I think Watford, just unknown at the moment. They can play a blinder one match and play absolutely pants the following. Well, there's sort of 2 of the matches. There's that Mr. Prowse fella from Southampton. We need to sort of wind him up big style when he comes to Selhurst. And again, Watford is just that little team that think they're a London team, but they're not up in Hertfordshire. So Everton definitely 3 points, and I'd like to say another 6 points from the other 2 matches.
Nick, you're on mute.
Right, sorry, mate. I was actually talking to you anyway. Tim, you're going to be over at least one of those games. Your thoughts?
5 points. I just want to see us not lose any of them after losing 3. I think it's time, right? Definitely at least 1 win, but I'd just be happy with 5, with not losing anything.
And you think I'm mad? Some kids just put in the chat, Ian, drop Ayew and we win all 3 of them. I'm sure we were just discussing it. He was our favourite. He was probably our man of the match yesterday.
But he needs to spell Ayew correctly, so you know.
No, he's on the beach in Singapore or something at the moment.
Listen,
Okay.
I'm with Tim really. As long as we don't lose and we win one of them or 2 of them, I think 7 points. I'm going to go for. Nigel mentioned earlier about the dross behind us. I don't think there is any dross in the Premier League apart from Andros, who we're visiting. And see what I did there? And Andros will get a nice welcome at Selhurst Park. He's been a great servant to us. Let's hope he comes and plays and he's on the losing side on Sunday for the late game, 4:30. What a terrible time for a game of football. All for TV, of course. But I think we'll beat Everton and we owe Southampton. That's when we beat them. and maybe just nick a point at Watford. Who knows? So yeah, let's go into this with optimism. Surely, the players will be up for this. They've got to be. And although they're winnable, I saw someone else say earlier in the chat that, of course, those sides will fancy their chances against us as well.
Of course,
yeah.
especially after
And good to see my old mate Fergus Tidd come on tonight.
Is Fergus out there? Hello, Ferg.
Above Bright Scum by Xmas. Yes, okay, I'll take that all day, yeah.
And also, Lee Clark has just mentioned something in the chat, and he's quite right. I hear Jimmy Mack is back in training. Is this true? Right, let me give you some up to date. If you listen very carefully, guys, to Vieira's post-match interview yesterday, he didn't mention Jimmy by name. He mentioned both of them. He said, "We've only got 2 injured players, guys," and he said, "I've got 2 players coming back for the next game." Is what he said. Okay, and it can only be Anderson and Jimmy Mack. So there's something positive to finish on. We will be back before I finish off, Aaron, I must say, well done for your contribution for your first attempt tonight, mate. You've done a sterling job. And now, haven't you got some trees to go and pick or something, or climb, or whatever it is you do?
I've actually got to go spray them. Not pick them, spray them today.
All right. Listen, mate, welcome aboard. Thanks for that. You were outstanding. Tim, I do apologise for the late notice. I know you've got to go.
That's all good, mate.
Thanks, buddy, and keep me posted on your flight back. I want to know so me and Wendy can catch up.
Sweet.
You two, the other two, as always, superstars. Nigel, you do a massive amount of work in the background. Ian,
you're welcome.
Thank you for what you do in Twitter, and Lucy, of course, who's producing this. Please ask your smart speaker to play the latest Red and Blue Review podcast because it goes onto our numbers. Even if you just turn it on and then mute it, it doesn't matter. You're still playing it. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, we have a huge interview with Sir Steve Coppell. And there he is in my dining room, right where I'm sitting right now. Steve Coppell. Look at that. Okay, and he was here. And that's coming out to you all over Christmas. Please tell everybody on every Facebook group you're on that Red and Blue Review have got Steve Coppell. You can even have that photo if you want. Okay, put it on Twitter. I don't care where you put it, but tell every Palace supporting person that lives on this planet, wherever you are in the world, we got Steve Coppell first. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of myself, Nick Philpott, and my fantastic team, okay, and I can't do it without any of them, God bless, stay safe, stop fighting each other because we love you all. God bless, good night. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good guys.